I didn't manage to rescue Mum in her lifetime here on Earth. There was an attempted divorce, and Dad died, and Mum dragged on for, goodness knows, another 20 odd years more. She was about 85 when she died. Yeah, 30 years perhaps. Really still hating him. Not seeming to come to truly embrace the love of you, Heavenly Father. But you know better than me, to put it mildly. But I trust you that she is rescued into life eternal, and that's obviously infinitely more. So I'm not worried about such failure on my part. Well, it wasn't my responsibility, of course, anyway. Only my desire to rescue her, but to find that you rescue anyway. Wow. And into life eternal, which I didn't even know to exist. Wow. Thank you, Dad. Heavenly Dad. Love you, Dad. Thank you, Dad. You may be wondering, well, why did his mum hate Dad? It's hard to say, really. Except in some spiritual explanation that I have lurking in my mind, which is that she represented the freedom of the individual, the modern woman who, she was ahead of her time. I mean, not only very capable, intelligent, but absolute women's rights and way beyond her time, you know, made the 1970s and 80s look like child's play by comparison. And in her solution to living, marrying Dad, the wealth, chained herself to the reverse philosophy of Dad's Victorian upbringing. His views, not his fault, of course, just the result of his upbringing, which was his parents were incredibly old-fashioned, were Victorian, simply that. I mean, we're talking about my grandparents who would have been born in the 1880s. It is Victoria. They were old-fashioned, I think, in their age. And the two cultures are like chalk and cheese, and I'm not sure which is which. Well, I am. Well, yeah. I mean, both have got their good points. And both have got their problems too. Don't we know it? It was a mismatch. It seemed perfect in that, you know, it was the knight in shining armour from his point of view, and the beautiful maiden from her point of view, but not quite. She's more like the beautiful Hollywood actress star than fairy tale maiden. What an amazing match. It was an extraordinary situation to be brought up in, at times a nightmare. And yet, in some sense, such amazing provision by God. Thank you, Dad. Well, I'm thinking how my daughter is in her situation. This academic dad, the knight in shining armour, who has this spiritual, dare I say it, has this spiritual stature from this maiden's point of view, from South India, who is brought up in a legalist, Seventh-day Adventist environment, whose parents perhaps a bit disillusioned with it, but she having gone through earnestly following such, and finding lack of love. And this knight in shining armour, of course, provides all that she needs. Enlightenment and absolute love, beautiful love. He's everything into loving. But what an extraordinary mismatch. Everything was opposites. He was 6'3". She was just under 4'10". He was white, she was black. He had, great age. He was, I don't know, 65 when she was 25, you know? Hang on, when she was 37, I was 74. So I was 37 years older than her. She was beautiful. I was balding heavily. Okay, fit, but I don't know, I had back trouble. Actually, I had no teeth, would you believe it, at the time. I was practicing being without teeth before I had dentures, and wanted the gums to settle, and wanted to relate more to my Salvation Army followers of the midweek meeting who were off the street and couldn't afford dentistry and so on. I didn't mind looking awful. I mean, we were stopped by the police 3 times thinking that I must be a child molester. Some member of the public had notified them to rescue my wife. I mean, you couldn't be more opposite. And we were incredibly in love. Incredibly in love. She was and I was, and we knew it. She denies it now, but we were, for 4 years at least, absolutely in love. I mean, she couldn't distinguish me from God's presence at times, and I just felt she was utterly a gift of God. A bit like one of those nonsense poems, The Owl and the Pussycat, or Piggy and Frog, you know what I mean? And then we had a daughter, and my goodness, everything changed. It's not that, well, everything changed. She got depressed. It's tragic. I won't go into that. It would bring tears to me fast. But my daughter has to grow up with parents that have parted and still struggle to relate to each other now as if we were two alienated beings that have got some trace memory of things being otherwise and not quite sure what to do with it. as we strive to each, in a way, do our best for our daughter, who, of course, is more like my mother, her grandmother. Well, and a bit like her mum is now. Oh, it's all chaos. And yet there's a great deal of love there. It's just that the daughter's not really appreciating it. Well, she's appreciating bits of it at times. In fact, I think it's whenever you're with one parent, you see the other parent differently. Because the other parent is so different. But perhaps in the end you can get to know that either way, they both love you. It's just that they're both incredibly incompetent, and yet in some ways so able. It just doesn't make sense. What a screwy world I must have come into, I think she thinks. But it's hard to say, she doesn't say much. Oh my goodness, I wish I could rescue her, but then so does Christine. Her mum, she'd like to rescue daughter as well. It's just that we don't actually seem to know how to do it. But that's no handicap to God, of course. In fact, He's set it up because it's exactly right for our daughter. Bless her, and bless God too. Bless you, Heavenly Father, for all your loving kindness. Just thank you. Thank you so much. Just love you, Lord. Thank you, Dad.